showers across southern parts of Scotland that will sink southwards into parts of Wales. Otherwise, temperatures generally ranging from around 6 to 10 degrees. So a bit of a messy picture as we start Monday morning. There is going to be some low cloud around, just hugging coasts of northern parts of Scotland, eastern Scotland and into Orkney and Shetland. Out towards the west, plenty of sunshine to start Monday morning. Likewise for Northern Ireland, perhaps a little bit cloudier further towards the east. Then we have some showers just running down into parts of Wales. And for Devon and Cornwall, there may be some mist and fog patches that will gradually lift and break as we go through the morning. But otherwise, a bit of a messy picture out there, variable amounts of cloud and sunny spells, but into the afternoon we will see some showers breaking out, especially across parts of Wales, northwest England, into southern parts of Scotland. They could be heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder. Best of the sunshine now across the far southeast, where it'll feel warm, highs of 22 degrees, cooler now in the west, where we have a bit more in the way of cloud. Now, as we go through Tuesday, a similar start to the day. The low cloud will burn away. Plenty of sunshine initially, but once the sun gets going, we'll see showers bubbling up. Some of these could be heavy and perhaps thundery, and that sets the scene on Wednesday as well, especially towards the south. Drier on Thursday, but a drop in the temperatures. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 9 p.m. I'm Ben Leo. Tonight.
Vabbè. He said he'll be fully compliant. I said he's got to have them on, but he'll be compliant. Vabbè.
Welcome to Soft Touch Britain. This guy broke into the UK on a small boat in 2022 and was given a taxpayer-funded house in London just months after. Of course he was. From there, though, he masterminded a £12 million people smuggling operation that trafficked migrants to Italy and eventually Britain. Oh, and he'd already been convicted of industrial drug trafficking in Italy, but we let him in anyway. So, is Nigel Farage right?
Does the Prime Minister agree now is the time to declare the situation in the English Channel as a national security emergency?
Yeah. Also tonight, did the establishment protect Huw Edwards as the BBC's blunders over the disgraced paedophile are exposed even further today? Just why the hell did he walk free from court while Lucy Connolly, who posted a solitary tweet and then deleted it, get 2.5 years? And...
He's going to shoot me through the internet. Oh my God. No.
Jew haters get absolutely schooled online while Israel proves at Eurovision that Twitter isn't real life. I speak to a rising star of social media who's been taking on anti-Semites with unmissable webcam debates. And has Britain got a gambling problem? Slot machine companies are targeting our poorest neighbourhoods with so-called adult gaming centres that apply addictive, money-draining games to society's most vulnerable. Meanwhile, Labour caught telling porkies. They denied a youth mobility scheme years ago, but tomorrow it will be signed into action at the Surrender Summit with Brussels as the government continues its Brexit betrayal. Joining me on the panel tonight is the founding chairman of Global Britain UK, Aman Bogal, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the former Labour Minister, Bill Rammell. And what would you do with brazen fly tippers who don't give a toss about our streets?
You're not dumping that there, are you? You're not dumping it there,
A huge 2 hours coming right up. Good evening to you. Thank you for your company. Welcome along. I'm about to give you further proof that the thousands of strange men being allowed to break into England via the Channel should be classed as a national security threat. Tomorrow, one of Britain's most prolific people smugglers will be banged up at His Majesty's pleasure after becoming the first person in this country to be convicted of trafficking migrants across the Mediterranean. This guy here, take a good look at him, is 42-year-old Egyptian Ahmed Ebid. He came to the UK in October 2022 on a dinghy with his wife and 12-year-old daughter. The family immediately claimed asylum here, despite Ebid having lived in Italy and, at one stage, being jailed there for 6 years for attempting to smuggle a ton of cannabis into the country. And because we're a soft-touch nation with no political will to protect our borders, several months after arriving in the UK, Ebid and his family were housed in an Art Deco-style block in the expensive area of Isleworth in southwest London. And there's the flat on your screen. If that wasn't bad enough, we then allowed an industrial-scale drug trafficker into the country, housed him at taxpayer expense. Wait until you hear what happened next. From that very taxpayer-funded home in London, Ebid masterminded a £12 million migrant smuggling operation in which around 4,000 people were transported to Europe from Libya on dangerously overcrowded fishing vessels. His victims paid around £3 each for those journeys and ended up landing on Italian shores. But the National Crime Agency believes many also eventually made their way to Britain. And Ebid, who had the nickname Captain Ahmed, of course he did, was eventually caught after the NCA linked his London-based mobile phone number to satellite phones that were made distress signal calls to the Italian Coast Guard when migrant vessels began sinking in the Med. It came after a tip-off from the Italians in 2022. The very same year, Ebid arrived in the UK to claim his free house and benefits. The NCA placed him under surveillance and even bugged his London home. Officers listened to his phone calls where they realised Ebid was acting as a virtual skipper and arranging for 600 to 700 migrants to be placed on flimsy fishing boats that had maximum capacities of less than 100. The crossings he engineered took place between October 22 and April 2023. And in one phone conversation, Ebid banned migrants from taking mobile phones on board dinghies and said those who did would be killed and thrown into the sea. At least 2 bodies were found in one of the boats rescued at sea by Italian authorities. This is the calibre of person Britain has been welcoming into the country with open arms. This is the kind of person the do-gooder charity workers are pandering to at Dover and at migrant hotels without any thought given to the native British population who are being forced to share communities with them. This is the moment NCA officers finally arrested Ebed near his London home in June 2023. They read his rights to him in Italian.
Listen to me carefully. Se ne arresto da questo a 14:49.
Tomorrow, Ebed is expected to be handed a lengthy prison sentence when he appears at Southwark Crown Court in central London. We all know our prisons are at maximum capacity, so I don't know why we're even bothering to jail him here at vast taxpayer expense when we could just send him back to Egypt. And no doubt once his sentence is finished, he'll be allowed to stay in the UK anyway, won't he, under ECHR rules that give him a right to a family life. What a joke. But what's more pressing is the need to finally, once and for all, class the small boats invasion as a national security emergency. Nigel Farage called for that very thing at PMQs this week.
The Prime Minister agree. Now is the time to declare the situation in the English Channel as a national security emergency.
Yeah. Right, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The founding chairman of Global British Centre, Aman Bagal, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the former Labour Minister, Bill Rammell. Good evening, panel. Welcome along. Chloe, ladies first. We'll start with you. This is a jaw-dropping case. He arrived as a small boat migrant, was given benefits and a home in London at taxpayer expense, and then within weeks started his own people smuggling operation, also while living the life of Riley in London. Why are we such a soft touch?
I mean, I feel like we've just got such a weak political class, and this man has cost the taxpayer a huge amount of money, not just for himself. I mean, there are plenty of people in this country who would love to be able to afford a flat in London, but instead live somewhere else or commute in for hours and hours because they can't afford it. It's not just him that's costing the tax, the bills coming from. All of the people that have arrived in Britain as a consequence of his smuggling and his actions, they're all costing the taxpayer a load of money. They're all be up in hotels and being given money from the state. So we shouldn't be paying to put him up in jail. He should be sent off. And I don't care, to be honest, if it's not the safest country for him. What he has done is horrendous, and no doubt he's got blood on his hands for people who have died on the crossing where he has smuggled migrants across.
Yeah, I think 19,000 people, not all under his crossings, but 19,000 people have died on that trip from Libya, Tripoli, Benghazi to Italy. So no doubt he has got blood on his hands.
Yeah, people think the British crossing the Channel is the dangerous part, but actually it's going across the Med where that sea is like a graveyard. It's horrifying.
Aman, is Nigel Farage right? It's time to declare a national emergency. Is this the way of dealing with these small boats crisis?
Indeed. Look, I agree absolutely with Nigel. I've been saying for the last year that this is already a national emergency. Since 2018, we've had more than 150,000 illegal dinghy-wallahs break into Britain and over 35,000 under Starmer. Now, my question is, how many more Ahmed Abids have broken into Britain in the last 4 years? How many more of these people are there that are smuggling in jihadists, criminals, and people that simply shouldn't be here? I mean, look, the biggest issue here is, first of all, the ECHR, yes, it holds us back and we need to be out of it. But my bigger question is, look, we have been presenting the world with the world's second largest international aid budget for a very long time after the US. We do not owe any single person coming from anywhere in the world a safe haven. We have enough issues of our own to deal with, and that's what we should be doing. All these people who talk about safe and legal routes, no, we do not owe the whole world safe and legal routes. We owe our own people safety at home.
Yeah, Bill, of course, this happened under the Conservative government, but as Aman pointed to there, the Labour government now isn't doing much to improve the situation. So is it time to declare a national emergency?
Well, look, it sticks in my claw that this guy was able to do this. However, I welcome the fact that he's been arrested, he's been convicted, and he's likely to get a very, very lengthy prison sentence, rightly so. In terms of calling this a national security emergency, I think, frankly, that's a political stunt. The government is already effectively doing that by legislating to grant enforcement powers, counter-terror-style powers, to intervene and disrupt the gangs. That's actually happening. The legislation is going through Parliament. And with respect, Ben, when you say but he'll probably be able to stay
anyway.
Well, he will be, won't he? Let's not kid ourselves.
Hold on. One, Brexit has stopped us sending him back to Italy, and, you know, the Shadow Home Secretary actually admitted as such in a leaked recording this week. But I certainly hope as soon as he's put in prison, the Home Secretary seeks to move heaven and earth to deport him from this country. But, you know, the European Convention on Human Rights, one of the very welcome provisions in the immigration white paper, is reframing Article 8 to stop some of the egregious examples of that provision being abused on human rights grounds.
Look, we are infested with activist judges who let people stay in this country for what? Chicken nuggets. Because...
Bad haircuts.
And that's the very piece of legislation the government is proposing to amend.
And do you think those activist judges will implement the legislation?
Judges have to abide by the law.
As long as we are in the ACHR, nothing will change. These people will continue to say we have a human right to family life in this country. We have seen tens of thousands of such cases. They're not going to go anywhere until things change.
Why don't we just kick this guy out, Bill? Why don't we just send him back to Egypt? When our prisons are full, we're not building new prisons, we're letting paedophiles such as Huw Edwards walk free. And by the way, I'll mention her again, Lucy Connolly banged up for a tweet for 2.5 years. Why don't we just send this guy back to Egypt?
Well, you've got to take it a step at a time. First of all, he's got to be sentenced. He'll be put in a British prison. Then I hope the Home Secretary will move heaven and earth to deport him from this country. And, you know, I make the point again, and, you know, you're going to shout me down, but deportations are up under this government.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. They're up by about 30%.
Not of the people that need to be deported. I feel like there's just
OK, so we're moving the goalposts. The numbers are up.
No, the vast majority that are up are people that are being paid $3,000.
No, it's not the vast majority.
We've only had about 6,000.
Criminals have been removed from this country.
6,000. That's not a huge number. 24,000.
Well, it's 30% up. You know,
6,000 is not a huge number. 24,000, on the other hand, have gone home being paid £3,000 each by the British government.
Look, the reality is, unless you stop the massive inflow of people arriving at our shores, no matter how much you try to increase deportations, you're going to have a huge issue. And there are a lot of great things in this white paper you talk about.
All right,
I feel like there's no sense of urgency.
Sorry to interject. We've got some breaking news coming into the newsroom in this last couple of seconds. I can reveal the former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer with metastasis to the bone. And he and his family, Jill Biden there pictured, his wife, are reviewing treatment options. That's according to his office in a statement released just a few moments ago. So that's the former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. The statement said last week President Joe Biden was seen for a new finding of a prostate nodule after experiencing urinary symptoms. On Friday, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, characterised by a Gleason score of 9. While this represents a more aggressive form of the disease, the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. The president and his family are reviewing treatment options with his physicians. So, yes, just to reiterate, former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. We've not heard yet from President Donald Trump just yet, or any other political names from the US, but I'm sure the likes of Keir Starmer and so on will be releasing statements throughout the night. We'll keep you updated. Very quick, any comments on Joe Biden there, Bill Rowan?
Very sad. I think it's sad in anybody's terms, but it's also sad for Joe, who I think is a good man and was a good president, but frankly got the presidency too late in his life. I wish him and his family well.
Yeah, I think I quite agree. I think it's incredibly sad, and I think the Democrats putting him through in his such late stage of his political journey, through the trials and tribulations of being president of the US, I think was quite something. He's been there for a very long time. I mean, I think he's been there since the Cold War. Yes, I think it's incredibly sad, and I think President Trump will have a lot of meaningful things to say.
Yeah, I mean, really, really sad to hear that he's having to go through this cancer diagnosis and, fingers crossed there might be some viable treatment for him. I think that, it was very clear towards the end of his presidency that he was getting older and that there potentially would be health issues, and I think that voters were rightly concerned about that. And I think, it probably is a good thing that we did not end up with him being the candidate and potentially being president again, because it would have been horrible for him to have to go through this whilst dealing with all the stress and responsibilities of being president.
But there is a question mark over the US system that pits an 81-year-old against a 79-year-old, where the same challenges could well come down the road.
Yeah, indeed. Joe Biden is 82. I mean, the Democrats were accused, and I think that the accusations have been, manifested as being absolutely true, that they covered up his health woes, particularly his cognitive abilities in latter years. I mean, even the US news networks were making out that any suggestion that Joe Biden wasn't completely there mentally was some sort of online alt-right conspiracy. They're now all doing U-turn. You watch MSNBC or CNN now, they're all admitting it like everybody was saying so at the time. It's a complete farce, and I think the way that they tried to get him back into office, despite his clear health problems, as you said, was a disgrace. Best wishes to Joe Biden and his family. The former US president has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. We'll keep you updated throughout the evening. And if you've been affected by prostate cancer, a few people have from my wife's side of the family, particularly my father-in-law. He's a big advocate for Prostate Cancer UK. Let us know. There are new treatments being developed. There's lots of new medical interventions that are being trialled. So, let us know if you've got experience with it, and we'll share your thoughts. Let's move on. gbnews.com/your say if you want to get in touch. Right, coming up next, new revelations are revealed regarding Huw Edwards and the BBC. I'm asking the questions tonight. Was Huw Edwards, in the light of Lucy Connolly, I'll mention her again because her treatment has been an absolute disgrace, in the light of Lucy Connolly getting 2.5 years in prison for a tweet, and Huw Edwards, a disgraced paedophile, walking free from court, has the establishment been protecting Huw Edwards? This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers, so you don't have to read them, which is great.
It's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight. Just a reminder of that breaking news from the last couple of moments. Big news from America, where former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. It's been described as an aggressive form. He and his family, including his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, are said to be reviewing treatment options, and that's according to a statement from his office released just a few moments ago this evening. So just to clarify again, former US President Joe Biden, who of course lost the presidential race to Donald Trump in November last year, he'd only just really come out of office. The inauguration was in January. He's been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. He is of course 82 years old. We'll have more of that as we get it throughout the evening. And we'll keep you updated as we get it. And as I keep saying, if you've got any personal experiences with prostate cancer, I want to hear about them. gbnews.com/your say. OK, we move on. The BBC's Huw Edwards problem apparently shows no signs of going away, because bombshell emails published today show concerns were raised about the disgraced newsman as far back as 2012. So in a story from the Sunday Times today, the paper revealed BBC Director General Tim Davie received an email from a former employee who hasn't been named way back in 2012 that showed a complaint had been made about Huw's conduct in the aftermath of the Jimmy Savile scandal. And since Edwards was taken off air in July 2023, victims, whistleblowers and even BBC staff and the public have all expressed absolute frustration about the veil of secrecy that has hung over the corporation's handling of the scandal. The presenter, you can see him on screen now, he walked free from court despite pleading guilty to some of the most disgusting child abuse crimes, and hasn't complied with BBC requests to return more than £200,000 in salary that he was paid after his arrest. Meanwhile, I'll say again, the likes of Lucy Connolly, there she is, a mother of one who is desperately missed by her family, remains in prison tonight after posting and then deleting, just 4 hours later, a solitary tweet on the day of last year's Southport massacre. She was given 2.5 years, while a disgraced paedophile like Huw Edwards walks a free man. So the question I'm asking tonight is, has the establishment protected Huw Edwards? I'm joined now by political commentator Mike Jones and the talent manager and chair of the Inter-Talent Agency, Professor Jonathan Shalit, OBE. Good evening, chaps. Thank you for your company. Jonathan, I'll start with you. Did the establishment protect Huw Edwards?
No, the establishment didn't protect Huw Edwards. But what I would say immediately is, of course, your analogy of that terrible situation of that young lady in jail for a tweet is completely appalling for the reasons you explained. The media establishment doesn't talk as one voice. It's a disparate group of people who all work to their own agendas. So people talk about the media like it's one, but it isn't. The truth is, it's appalling this it happened, of course, but an employer is damned if they do and damned if they don't. And what I mean by that, until an employee is convicted of a criminal offence, you've got to treat that employee like they're innocent to proven guilty. In hindsight, we all know what Huw was about. But do remember, his own wife of 30 years didn't know the kind of man he was. So to expect the BBC to know, I'm not quite sure is fair.
Well, Jonathan, in these FOI emails released today from the Sunday Times, it's been confirmed the BBC, they had a complaint back in 2012, and it's also revealed last year, previously, that he was warned about his unprofessional conduct, particularly online, first in 2021 and then in 2022, over a friendship he struck up with a vulnerable woman on Instagram. So there were murmurs, there were whispers. It wasn't as if, despite what the BBC says, that he suddenly popped out of the blue as a paedophile. Mike Jones, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think the BBC, to a certain extent, have protected Edwards. I mean, the Sunday Times spoke of an omerata, which is mafia speak for a code of silence. And thanks to that FOI investigation, some facts are now indisputable. I mean, the complaints go back to 2012. Edwards was officially warned in 2021 and then again in 2022 for his behaviour. A year later, of course, he was given a hefty pay rise. But, you know, internal emails referred to Edwards using code names like Finch, which doesn't exactly inspire confidence. And, you know, when Edwards was finally arrested for possession of child pornography, board members, BBC board members, weren't even informed about the arrest. I mean, this stinks to high heaven. It's like something out of a Franz Kafka novel. And, you know, I think BBC executives have a lot more questions to answer.
Jonathan, what do you make of the sentence, or the lack of sentence he got? It was a suspended sentence and he walks free. What's your thoughts about that?
But to me, he should have gone to jail. But that seems very simple, particularly when you look at people who are in jail for far lesser things, like the lady you mentioned for one tweet after that murder in Southport. But I don't think the BBC should be held responsible for a court not imposing sentences. They're two entirely different issues.
No, but...
it's reprehensible what he did. But I would also say, and I'm not defending the BBC, if they're out of order, but there's a bit of history being rewritten here. The BBC, led by Tim Davies, already acknowledged there were problems. They've already acknowledged it was a difficult decision. But equally, he did it on his own private property in his own private time. And it's very difficult for an employer, and it's no different than GB News. If allegations are made against a GB News presenter, many allegations come in the whole time to your switchboard about people in the public eye. You have to have proof. You have to have real, meaningful proof to act. And the truth is, no one knew what Huw Edwards was really about. Yes, people in hindsight are saying the odd murmur, the odd complaint, but nothing big that was substantiated. Nothing went to the Director General's office. Nothing went to the major producers of the television shows he was presenting, saying that these are serious issues. He was seen as a father of the nation. Deeply upsetting in hindsight, deeply horrific, and hopefully will never happen again. But sometimes you get the most awful people who hide in plain sight, and this is an example of that, and horrific for those. But I'd also add about the Sun newspaper certainly put him on the front pages. So to say the establishment covered up, that's simply not true, because the Sun is the biggest newspaper in the UK, and day after day after day they tried to pull him down. But the police looked into it and found there was no criminal case to answer. So
I will say, Jonathan, I will say, Jonathan, there is a conception that the establishment. I mean, what are we talking about when we say the establishment? I guess we're talking about the courts, we're talking about judges, we're talking about the media. The Sun initially was absolutely pilloried for their coverage. There were calls for the Sun to be shut down. They were accused of being homophobic. We had the likes of, I'm not going to name them, but we had very leading ex-BBC journalists, saying that Huw Edwards was a great man and the Sun should be ashamed of itself. And they were brave in their reporting to keep that up. And eventually they had something which they could nail him on with the new allegations. But the conception is, Jonathan, and maybe Mike, you can elaborate on this, normal people see the likes of the BBC, judges, the elites, if you want to call them that, as part of the establishment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why the moniker two-tier Keir really struck a chord with the British public, because it seems that justice is doled out differently according to the group or individual in question. And yeah, I think many of our institutions have rotted from the inside, whether they're, judges, politicians themselves, public sector workers, even members of the third sector. And the BBC is just one example in a long line. And yeah, the BBC have covered things up in the past. The Dyson report into the Martin Bashir scandal being one example.
Yeah, over 25 years.
Yeah, precisely.
You're both talking absolute nonsense.
Which point?
This country, the media, the courts, the politicians, the monarch, they're separate institutions. The court's not in collusion. The police don't collude with the press. The press don't collude with judges. Politicians don't collude with the courts. The great thing about this country is every area is free in its own area. This is not the establishment. If people think the establishment is because every aspect of society joins up to attack people, that's what you do in Russia. That's what you do.
Well, maybe, Jonathan, maybe not directly where there's paper trails, but we had Keir Starmer urging that Southport rioters would feel the full force of the law. And what do you get in return? You have judges, you have magistrates pricking their ears up, and Keir Starmer's not emailing them and saying, make sure the Southport rioters are getting severe and unfair sentences. And you're saying police don't collude with journalists. Well, many journalists were taken to court in Operation Elvedon for doing just that, so it does happen.
So you're saying to me the police were wrong to arrest the rioters in Southport? that our Prime Minister was saying what the public thought. But do remember, the Attorney General, who's in the cabinet of the government, told the Prime Minister to tone down a bit. So we have complete checks and balances. The police arrested the Southport rioters because they were rioting in Southport and doing damage and scaring people.
I'm not talking about the arrest so much. I'm talking about some of the sentences handing out. One grandfather who shouted at police ended up killing himself in prison. Jonathan.
The judges, the police may prosecute, but judges and juries decide sentences. You can't blame one for the other. They're separate issues. Now, if the judges and if the judges did the wrong sentences, that's why you have an appeal system in this country, and that's why some people who are wrongly convicted do get out, and why we have miscarriages of justice and we have appeals. But it's wrong. We started with Huw Edwards and his appallingness as a paedophile. We've gone on to the establishment colluding and all speaking as one. That's what happens in Putin land, not United Kingdom.
Well, I'm sorry, Jonathan. I'm sorry. The establishment does cover itself up. Let's look at the... we're running out of time, but the infected blood scandal. The NHS covered up institutionally for years the infection of haemophiliacs with HIV. It's been proved. Doctors were taking bungs. The health secretaries were involved. Pharmaceutical companies were involved. Corruption happens. Collusion happens, I'm afraid. That's just one example off the top of my head.
Collusion happens, but you can't... there might have been a bad egg in the NHS covering things up, which we know about, like there was in the post office. But that's going to go to the...
Look at Savile. Look at Jimmy Savile talking to the BBC. How did he get away with it for so long? Walking the corridors of hospitals, abusing kids.
I'm not defending, obviously, discussing.
No, of course.
You're jumping with subjects. You're using Jimmy Savile, Huw Edwards, the NHS.
I'm talking about establishment cover-ups.
I don't think any intelligent person watching this programme knows the courts and judges and politicians are not all sitting together colluding, and that's a simple fact.
OK, well, I guess we're all just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Professor Jonathan Shalit, OBE, thank you, and Mike Jones, thank you very much for your company. Appreciate it. Let us know what you think on that, gbnews.com/your say. Time now for the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win a 4-berth motorhome worth £67,000 and £5,000 in tax-free cash on top. Here's all the details you need to win.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, good luck to you. Coming up, as Israel finished a surprise for some second at Eurovision last night in Switzerland, was it the most political event with pro-Palestine protesters trying to disrupt the big night ever? And by the way, talking of anti-Semites, my next guest who will be commenting on that, he is a rising social media star who's been going viral all over the world, and I've got some amazing clips to show you, because he's been debating Muslims, jihadists, Nazis, anti-Semites, with schooling them on the Quran, their own religion. There are some absolutely insane viral clips which I'm about to share with you. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, looking further afield, there's plenty of sunny spells across Europe, but also some thunderstorms breaking out with an area of low pressure. So across parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands, dry, fine, sunny spells. But we do have this area of low pressure, and across parts of Spain, northern Portugal, there will be some heavy and intense downpours, similar across parts of northeastern Europe as well. And that theme continues with sunny spells, but some showers too that could be heavy.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, we'll see low cloud returning once again, but also some welcome showers mixed with sunny spells as we go through Monday. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we've still got this area of high pressure situated towards the north, driving north and then northeasterly and easterly winds as we go through Monday. But through the rest of this evening, once that land cools, we'll see the return of low cloud from the North Sea, thick enough at times for some light rain and drizzle. There'll be some showers across southern parts of Scotland that will sink southwards into parts of Wales. Otherwise, temperatures generally ranging from around 6 to 10 degrees. So a bit of a messy picture as we start Monday morning. There is going to be some low cloud around, just hugging coasts of northern parts of Scotland, eastern Scotland and into Orkney and Shetland. Out towards the west, plenty of sunshine to start Monday morning. Likewise for Northern Ireland, perhaps a little bit cloudier further towards the east. Then we have some showers just running down into parts of Wales, and for Devon and Cornwall there may be some mist and fog patches that will gradually lift and break as we go through the morning. But otherwise a bit of a messy picture out there, variable amounts of cloud and sunny spells, but into the afternoon we will see some showers breaking out, especially across parts of Wales, northwest England, into southern parts of Scotland. They could be heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder. Best of the sunshine now across the far southeast, where it will feel warm, highs of 22 degrees, cooler now in the west, where we have a bit more in the way of cloud. Now, as we go through Tuesday, a similar start to the day. The low cloud will burn away. Plenty of sunshine initially, but once the sun gets going, we'll see showers bubbling up. Some of these could be heavy and perhaps thundery, and that sets the scene on Wednesday as well, especially towards the south. Drier on Thursday, but a drop in the temperatures. Bye-bye.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Ben Leo's Tonight, only on GB News. Just a reminder of that breaking news from America over the past 30 minutes or so. Former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. It's been described as an aggressive form. He and his family, including his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, are reviewing treatment options, and that's according to an office from his, a statement from his office released in the past 30 minutes or so. So just to repeat, former US President Joe Biden, he's 82 years old, of course. He's been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. That's according to an announcement stateside in the last 30 minutes or so. I'm keeping updated with this from the news agencies. I'm looking for any statements from the likes of President Donald Trump, Keir Starmer and so on. Nothing yet, but we will keep you updated with this breaking story as the show goes on. Right, last night, did you see it? I didn't because I was working. And actually, if I wasn't working, I probably wouldn't have bothered to watch it anyway because it's not my bag. But it was the Eurovision final. And aside from Austria winning the competition, many of the headlines came from the backlash against Israel's entry amid the Gaza conflict. But as we discovered, once again, who knew, outcry on social media doesn't reflect real life.
I've awarded you $297.
Wow.
Right, so that was the moment Israel's Yuval Raphael finished in second after a strong performance, leaving protesters and critics stunned, to say the least. 2 pro-Palestine protesters did try to rush on stage during her song, and a Eurovision crew member was hit with paint as the duo tried to wreck her performance. But what we saw at Eurovision last night was, let's be honest, just a flavour of what's been happening en masse since October the 7th and Israel's response to Hamas's terror attack. In just a moment, I'll be joined by the founder of the Israel Advocacy Movement. He has recently left the UK due to serious concerns for the safety of himself and his family. But he's been gaining massive traction online and been very vocal in raising awareness about the rise in anti-Semitism with clips like this.
You're going to shoot me through the internet. Oh, my God. No.
His name's Joseph Cohen, and he joins me now. Joseph, nice to see you. I've been watching with much entertainment your clips over the past week. I love them. Just explain who you are, what you've been doing, why you left the UK, where are you now, Israel, I guess, and what you're doing with these viral clips. What's going on here? Who are the people you're speaking to? Just enlighten us.
OK, so for over a decade, I've campaigned against anti-Semitism in the UK, as I witnessed it getting worse and worse. At first, starting with the 2014 war, we witnessed a huge rise in anti-Semitism, which has just continued to surge since then. And now we're facing an almost tsunami of anti-Semitism. I'm an Orthodox British Jew. I was raised in the north of England in a working class village, not the conventional Orthodox Jewish story, but nonetheless, I loved this country. It was my home. I've got English family, and it breaks my heart that I don't see a future for the Jewish people in the UK anymore. I've received death threats on an almost daily basis. I've had weapons pulled on me, like knives, and I realized it just was no longer safe for my family to remain. And so you're right, we left for Israel around a year ago.
OK, let's take a look at some of these clips. So basically, you speak to people online. It's kind of like chat roulette. It's webcams. You get paired with somebody, and they realise that you're a Jew. And a lot of the time, they try and, well, they pull Nazi salutes. They say Heil Hitler and whatever else. We've got a couple of clips. Let's look at one of them. Let's play this first one.
Yeah, Hitler was right, man. He's a good man.
Hey, genociding 6 million Jews, good thing?
Of course it is.
Britain, this is who you've let into your country. Enjoy.
So a lot of these people, so that guy said Hitler was right. A lot of these people, Joseph, are British. They're in Britain when they're making these kind of comments to you, right?
Yeah, and the amount of Hitler adoration is just shocking. Anyone who's aware of the history of Britain knows that we fought the Nazis, yet today, it's everywhere. You've got Kanye West in America with 10 million plus views on a song called Heil Hitler. And it's so with my work previously, I was going to protests. I was going to places like Speaker's Corner. And I was at the coalface, and I thought maybe I had a skewed perception of anti-Semitism in the UK because I'm meeting the people with the worst views. And so I thought, what would happen if I just went on a chat room, like chat roulette, and was just paired with ordinary British people? What response would I be met with as a Jew? And I'd say it's 50-50. And 50% of them are positive or neutral. And scarily, 50% of them are the most vocal and vile forms of anti-Semitism you could imagine.
What I love, Joseph, what I love is you school them on the Quran. So there was a clip where one lad was telling you that... maybe you can school me now. Was it Allah was saying that the Jews should be expelled or hidden behind rocks or something, and you were saying no, boy, that's the Hadith, that's not the Quran. Yeah. Let's play another clip. We've got one more clip.
Free Palestine!
You're blocking my camera. Move.
Free Palestine!
Move.
Free Palestine! Free. Was denn?
What are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? I come Germany, du Hurensohn. Was tust?
So that one wasn't from online. It was your last ever, maybe, debate in person in the UK before you left?
Yeah, and in it, a group of Islamist thugs threatened to beat me. And the reason why that was important for me, that video, is later in the clip, the camera pans around, and you can see standing by observing a group of thugs threatening to beat up a Jew were several police officers. Just observing, just doing nothing.
They didn't do anything?
And And it's an experience I've witnessed time and time again, where I've been told that my presence as an Orthodox Jew or a visibly Jewish person is threatening, or is provocative. Sorry, is provocative.
Just finally, what do you make of what happened at Eurovision last night? Everybody was saying, you know, protests and stuff. Israel were getting absolutely slammed. Turns out that they won a massive proportion of the vote. They came second.
So, two thoughts on the Eurovision. First and foremost, what an incredible woman. Here is a woman who survived the Hamas massacre of October the 7th and hid under 40 corpses. Not only survived, but then went on to represent her nation at the Eurovision. And it takes a special kind of person to protest a woman like that. You can have your thoughts about the war in Gaza, you can have your thoughts about Israel, but to protest a woman like that is borderline evil. And then the second side for it, which fills us with optimism, was as a Jewish person, you read the news and it's constantly bombarded with hostile opinions about Israel, about Jews, and you think that's the reality? And then you look at the public vote of the Eurovision.
Yeah.
And
social media isn't real life.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Joseph, where can people find your clips? I had so much fun this week watching all of them in full. I mean, it's hours worth. Where can they find them?
So every social media platform under the Israel advocacy movement.
All right, mate, good stuff, and I thoroughly recommend it. It's, you talk Arabic to them, they're surprised that there's a Jew talking Arabic, it's hilarious, it's good fun. Joseph Cohen, thank you for your company, have a good weekend. Right, coming up, apparently, slot machine firms, gambling companies are targeting the UK's poorest areas, particularly seaside towns, with arcade machines, these new slot stores and shops which are targeting vulnerable people and pretty much getting them addicted to gambling when they're skint already. What can we do about this? Is it a problem? Should it be an issue for the government? Back in just a tick.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
NHS trusts are being told to prioritise ethnic minority applicants for interview shortlists, and they justify hiring white British candidates. Now, the official guidance says at least one BAME candidate must be shortlisted, even if white candidates are better qualified. And one NHS trust admitted using positive discrimination to decide who even gets an interview. Now, managers are also told to use race as a tiebreaker, and guess who wins in that case? And to explain themselves if the hire isn't from a minority background. Now, some won't even move forward unless it's a non-white candidate is in the mix altogether. Now, all this while NHS backlogs are hitting record highs. What a carry-on. Dr. Mukherjee, let's start with you. When you look at the naked truth here, there must be BAME candidates on shortlists. You have to justify hiring white British candidates, and a tiebreaker, a toss of the coin. If there's an ethnic minority and a white person, the job will be given to the ethnic minority. Do you think that's racist?
That is racist. And it goes against the fundamentals of the NHS, which is about patient care and quality of care. And as a patient myself, I mean, I know I'm a doctor myself, but by all means, I pay taxes, and you all do as well. We want to get the best quality people serving us. We don't want to be paying money towards some sort of diversity hire just to tick a box. That doesn't serve the purpose. I don't think I would want to be, and I'm a person of colour myself, I don't think I would want to be a diversity hire. I think it's a bit of an insult, really, to think that of all the things I had to offer, the only thing that I have no control over, my skin colour, is what got me the job.
GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Some breaking news. Again, it's an hour of breaking news. Gary Lineker will announce he's leaving the BBC tomorrow and will not front the 2026 World Cup as planned following the anti-Semitism row. The former Leicester City and England striker is bowing out by mutual agreement from the BBC after 26 years. With his final match of the day this Sunday, a source has told the Sun newspaper tonight it's a heartbreaking end to an extraordinary broadcasting career. Just to reiterate, Gary Lineker will be leaving the BBC early. He's quit the corporation and will not be fronting next year's World Cup in America. Another bit of breaking news. We've mentioned it very briefly in the past 30 minutes. The former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. It's described as a rather aggressive form of cancer. He and his family are reviewing treatment options. That's according to a statement from his office in the past 30 minutes. So it's former US President Joe Biden. He's 82. Has got prostate cancer. Right, let's move on swiftly. Gambling companies are targeting the poorest areas of Britain with adult arcades and slot machines in what critics have called a deliberate attempt to milk society's most vulnerable dry. Alarming data reveals the number of slot machine shops, also known as adult gaming centres or AGCs, has risen by 7% since 2022, many of which are open 24 hours a day. Seaside towns are particularly affected. Venues are disproportionately concentrated in Britain's most deprived areas. That's according to analysis by The Guardian. Politicians, including Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, is demanding councils are given tougher new powers to stop new stores opening. I'm joined now by the gambling survivor and campaigner Huw Ghali. Huw, thank you for joining me. We're short on time, I apologise, but just explain to me your background with gambling. You were a gambling survivor, is that an accurate way to describe it?
So for me, my gambling addiction started in 2009 and it stopped in the pandemic. So I lost £250,000 to that addiction.
Wow, £250,000.
What
are you gambling on?
Everything you can think of, the horses, the dogs, the AGCs, the bookmakers, anything where I could bet, I would be betting.
So when it comes to addiction, eating, gambling, drugs, alcohol, whatever, I seem to think, and some experts think, that it's a mask for something. Do you know why you gambled? Have you traced that back?
Yeah, so I was able to go into my therapy journey, and I sort of tracked it back to when I was 8 years old, and my father was an alcoholic. And there were certain things that happened in the household which then led me on to the lack of validation, lack of love, and then I found gambling as a place to fill that.
Right, OK. Tell us about these AGCs. So these are high street shops. I've noticed an uptick in recent months. You walk down the high street, once what was a nice independent shop is now a 24-hour adult arcade. Just explain what these are.
So AGCs are technically, they're glorified, almost like arcade centre. So you don't find your roulette machines in there. What you tend to find is a number of machines where you walk into, but you can't see in them. They're sort of like, they're mirrored screens. They have just loads of electronic devices. They're actually known as the crack cocaine of the gambling world. But where you go in, you just spend copious amounts of money. There was a recent legislation which changed that from betting, say, £10 or £100 on a spin to say £2, which is great, but also means that you spend longer in these places.
So are these shops full of the fixed odds betting terminals? The e-roulette, the blackjack? Yeah. Where previously, in recent years, before the legislation was changed, you could have multiple £100 spins within seconds. Yeah. But that's now been reduced to £2. But even still, it's a problem, though.
Yeah, of course it is, because think about it, in bookmakers, so, you know, we have about, I think it's about 1,500 AGCs across the UK. Yeah. But bookmakers, we have about 6,000. But in a bookmakers, you can only have, I think it's a maximum of 3 in certain places, depending on the licence.
What do you want to see done from the government? What do you want the Keir Starmer and co to do?
Me, personally, I think tight regulations. I think there needs to be more power to local councils to have, especially with the licensing team, to basically say, no, there's too many on the high street. And I think there needs to be, personally, a blanket ban on on betting ads across social media.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually, and on TV as well. Just finally, we've got 10 seconds. Do these AGCs, do these arcades, do they deliberately target the vulnerable, as has been accused?
Well, look where they're strategically placed. They are placed in places of low income, deprived areas, and people that just need money.
And Haj, you're not gambling anymore, you're recovered.
I'm fully recovered,
Mate,
almost 5 years.
Well done. $250,000 is an epic amount to lose gambling, but I'm pleased you're out the other side, and I'm sure you've learned a lot. Haj, thank you for being with me. I'm sorry it's pushed for time. Stick with us on Benio tonight. A couple of big breaking stories, including, as I said, Gary Lineker leaving the BBC early, and, of course, Joe Biden's health woes in America. Back in just a tick with all the newspaper front pages.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, we'll see low cloud returning once again, but also some welcome showers mixed with sunny spells as we go through Monday. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we've still got this area of high pressure situated towards the north, driving north and then northeasterly and easterly winds as we go through Monday. But through the rest of this evening, once that land cools, we'll see the return of low cloud from the North Sea, thick enough at times for some light rain and drizzle. There'll be some showers across southern parts of Scotland that will sink southwards into parts of Wales. Otherwise, temperatures generally ranging from around 6 to 10 degrees. So a bit of a messy picture as we start Monday morning. There is going to be some low cloud around, just hugging coasts of northern parts of Scotland, eastern Scotland and into Orkney and Shetland. Out towards the west, plenty of sunshine to start Monday morning. Likewise for Northern Ireland, perhaps a little bit cloudier further towards the east. Then we have some showers just running down into parts of Wales. And for Devon and Cornwall, there may be some mist and fog patches that will gradually lift and break as we go through the morning. But otherwise, a bit of a messy picture out there, variable amounts of cloud and sunny spells, but into the afternoon we will see some showers breaking out, especially across parts of Wales, northwest England, into southern parts of Scotland. They could be heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder. Best of the sunshine now across the far southeast, where it'll feel warm, highs of 22 degrees, cooler now in the west, where we have a bit more in the way of cloud. Now, as we go through Tuesday, a similar start to the day. The low cloud will burn away. Plenty of sunshine initially, but once the sun gets going, we'll see showers bubbling up. Some of these could be heavy and perhaps thundery, and that sets the scene on Wednesday as well, especially towards the south. Drier on Thursday, but a drop in the temperatures. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness. That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 10 p.m. I'm Ben Leo, and breaking tonight, a massive evening of big breaking news. The first, former US President Joe Biden has tonight been diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer. He was seen by medical experts on Friday after seeing a doctor for a urinary infection. We'll bring you all the latest details on the Biden situation. He's 82 years old, of course. He gave up the presidency after losing to Donald Trump in November. And tonight it's been confirmed he is suffering from an aggressive form of prostate cancer. More details as we get it. Also, elsewhere in the UK, more massive news. Gary Lineker, there he is, this side. He is set to quit the BBC and not front, as planned, next year's 2026 World Cup in America following that blazing anti-Semitism row. Lineker will present his final programme for the BBC next week. Are you happy to see the back of him? The newspaper tomorrow is celebrating the new EU deal, which will apparently provide us with cheaper food. But is this a betrayal of Brexit? I'm sure me and my panel will have plenty to say. Joining me this evening, founding chairman of the Global Britain Centre, Aman Bagal, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the former Labour Minister, Bill Rammell. And what do you reckon is going on here? Good evening, welcome to the News Hour on Ben Leo tonight. Lots of front pages have just dropped. Let's start with the Metro. The headline reads, "Hold on for your lives." This is the moment, and we've got a video of this a bit later on. An extraordinary moment. Sailors from Mexico clung for their lives to the broken masts of a ship after it smashed into New York's iconic Brooklyn Bridge. There were dozens of injuries. There's a footage which we'll show you shortly, sailors jumping into the water. I still don't know what the hell happened. Sorry to use a Eurovision pun from last night, but yeah, it was extraordinary footage. Elsewhere, the newspaper tomorrow, let's take a look. This is talking about the so-called, as critics have called it, a surrender summit tomorrow with Brussels. Cheaper food and booster trade as the UK agrees to follow EU rules in today's big Brexit reset. Is this a betrayal of 17.4 million Leave voters? Is this what people voted for back in 2016? Apparently Downing Street has emphasised the final deal is not yet done as talks on the under-30s mobility scheme continues. There are reports today that Arch Remainer Keir Starmer is going to concede on food standards and make the UK follow EU rules on food. But the Minister for EU Relations, Nick Thomas-Symonds, has said the government will, quote, align on common standards to make sure we get a far easier trade deal. His comments seem to be an indication that the UK will go for a so-called dynamic alignment agreement, which means the UK will change its laws to follow the EU. Some suggesting it makes the UK a passive rule taker. Panel, welcome along. Bill Rammell, Chloe Dobbs, Aman Bagal. Bill, I guess we'll start with you on this. What's your take on tomorrow's events? Is it a surrender summit?
No, it's not. And look, you know, that kind of rhetoric, that's not where public opinion is. By 55 to 31%, people regret Brexit. Yeah. 70% support the youth mobility scheme. This is about our biggest trading partner getting a better deal so businesses and jobs can prosper.
I'm sure these two here will have something to say on that very, very shortly. But first of all, sorry, my mistake. Let's get stuck into Gary Lineker. He's quitting the BBC and will not front next year's World Cup coverage in 2026 in America. Chloe, what's your take on this?
I think that it's about time. I think the BBC have had quite a headache with Gary Lineker just posting and tweeting whatever he wants. And there was an interview that was put out with him recently where he was asked, do you think the BBC need to be impartial over the Israel-Hamas war? And he says, no, I don't think so. It's very clear that Palestine is in the right. Everyone should be pro-Palestine. And so he's just very unwilling to behave himself. And what he posted on social media, he claims, I didn't see the rat on there, which is very, very offensive to Jewish people, and that he didn't understand that that was something that Jewish people find offensive. And I'm sorry, that apology just didn't cut it. And even staff within the BBC are getting furious with him. The Jewish staff at the BBC are getting really frustrated with the fact that the BBC still keeps him. So thank God he's gone. I think a lot of people will be happy about this.
How on earth are we going to now tune in to every weekend, looking at the football, waiting for Gary Lineker to tell us all about Middle Eastern politics. But look, this is about time that we defund the BBC. It's quite simple. It is no longer the British Broadcasting Corporation with presenters like Gary Lineker. It is the Bakwas Broadcasting Corporation. That's a word I love to use. It means nonsense.
But it just seems to be hit by scandal upon scandal. We talked about Huw Edwards earlier, didn't we? Huw Edwards, the latest one, more revelations in the
BBC today.
Sunday Times today.
It's gone from a global voice of authority and reason and respectability to an absolute laughingstock. It's been infiltrated by thousands of former Al Jazeera activist journalists. It's got people like Gary Lineker being paid millions of taxpayer money.
Licence fee money. I guess it is a tax, pretty much.
It is a tax.
Money. Let me just show you. Sorry, Bill. I'll come to you in just one sec. I just want to show you first of all something from earlier today on GB News. This was former head of religion and ethics at the BBC, Akil Ahmed, on Free Speech Nation.
Had he been still contracted or 2-3 years into a contract to do Match of the Day, I think they may be in a much more difficult position, and I think there would have had to have been a much more thorough investigation that may have led to something of that nature. Because obviously you don't just sack somebody for the first thing that they do, depending on what it is. It depends on what it is. Now, on this one, I think it's a very big one. It's a very big mistake. It's not the same as having an opinion that says, I believe there's a genocide or I believe this. The rat emoji or the whole rat thing that he forwarded on, yes, you can apologise, but I think some of these things have to be looked at beyond the apology.
Sorry, Bill, go on. What's your take on that?
Gary Lineker, I think he's been a great player, a great broadcaster. I'm sad to see him go in some senses, but I think he's pushed his luck once too often with his political views. And a while ago, I reflected, if it had been a BBC broadcaster pumping out right-wing views on the channel, not on the channel, but on his tweets, would I be happy? And no, I wouldn't. And I think his degree of pushing his own political views has become inconsistent with presenting.
Should we defund the BBC? Because when a man suggested that, then you kind of sort of grimace. You don't agree with that?
No, I still think the BBC is a major asset. And look, you can all have your views, but actually, in a time of crisis, the news broadcaster predominantly people turn to is the BBC. But it needs to get it right more often than it's getting it at the moment.
It does need to get it right, but the problem is it doesn't get it right. More often than not, we see the BBC peddling a particular point of view that is not fact, but opinion of its particular presenters and journalists. And that's simply not good enough.
And also, it's just unfair on people who have a TV but choose not to watch the BBC. A lot of people do watch the BBC, and aside from news, they actually do put out a lot of great programmes. But it is unfair that someone has a TV and let's say they never tune into the BBC, they've got to fund it. It's just a very outdated model, and I think they realise that themselves. But that means that they put themselves in a position where they are going to get constant scrutiny and constant scandal. If this was a football, TV presenter on a channel that was not funded by people in what is essentially a tax,
no one would
there
care.
wouldn't be so much of an outcry, would there?
But if you travel around the world, the BBC is regarded, I think, rightly as the best state broadcaster. And the licence fee protects it from government interference and has upheld its independence.
Well, I think
we throw that away at our peril.
Particularly since October the 7th, I don't think the BBC have done themselves any favour. There was that infamous example, was it December just gone, or was it the year before, where they reported that Israel had bombed a hospital when in fact it was a Hamas rocket that had gone AWOL.
They've made mistakes.
Even this evening, Ben, coming into the studio tonight, the BBC put out a headline about the recent conflict between India and Pakistan. As very sort of, it seemed balanced that we're talking about both sides of the India-Pakistan conflict. They spoke about, in that article that was pushed out on a BBC News breaking news headline on a tweet, saying a Pakistani mosque was bombed by Indian forces. That Pakistani mosque was actually a Islamist terror training centre. But if you read that BBC article, you wouldn't be any wiser. This is what we're talking about. They do not present the full facts. They present opinions laced as left-wing journalists.
So according to The Sun, where this story is being published tomorrow, it's on the line tonight, Gary had been due to host the BBC's coverage of the 2026 World Cup in America, but will instead bow out Sunday next week. A source told the newspaper Gary acknowledged his position at the BBC, anchoring the most prestigious tournament in world football, was untenable, and he will not be hosting the World Cup. He offered to step down at the end of the season and did not want the BBC, an organisation he still holds in the highest of esteem, dragged into any further controversy. He remains absolutely devastated by the recent turn of events and is deeply regretful about how his post was interpreted. His last match of the day will air on Sunday, so that'll be next week, and he won't be back. I wonder, Bill, how much the BBC will be paying him to leave early. Will he be getting a golden goodbye? How much of licence fee cash is going to be thrown at Gary to,
I don't know. If it's his decision, as that briefing to The Sun suggests, then I don't think he's entitled to any compensation.
I mean, it will depend on the details of his contract, right? But I mean, Huw Edwards got a heck of a lot of money even when he wasn't working. But we'll see what the details of the contract are. I think that it's good that the BBC have finally pushed him out. I know he says he's quitting himself, but we know what happens in these cases because like, the campaign against anti-Semitism, for example, they were staging protest after protest outside the BBC. We've had that whole controversy with that documentary that came out where you've got the son of a Hamas figure narrating the documentary.
Which he doubled down on.
We had that report that said that the BBC have breached their own guidelines over 1,500 times over the Israel-Hamas war. I feel like they have to show that they're taking a stand because people are genuinely starting to think that this is an anti-Semitic association.
I take Gary at face value. I genuinely don't think he's anti-Semitic, but he is part of a liberal set of opinion that get elided with some extreme nutters who are deeply anti-Semitic, and I think they need to be very, very careful.
And you know what, Bill? In our free democracy, people are, free to hold such lunatic fringe element views. That's what free democracy is all about. But what I have a real issue with is the taxpayer. Well, the BBC licence fee shouldn't be made to pay at the cost of a criminal record of being made to pay for these people in terms of, funding their multi-million-pound salaries.
Come on, the media is a competitive business and all media organisations pay high salaries.
GBNews is not funded by at the cost of sending someone to prison for watching it. Neither should the BBC.
OK, I've got a statement from Gary Lineker, of course. We've read it a few times, but just for, in the interest of balance, he said, on Instagram, I reposted material which I've since learned contained offensive references. I very much regret these references. I take full responsibility for this mistake. That image does not reflect my views. It was an error on my part for which I apologise unreservedly. And by the way, Chloe, just talking about contracts and so on, Huw Edwards is keeping his £400k a year pension from the BBC. £400k a year, by the way. Massive amount, because there was no morality clause in his BBC contract. In any normal job, especially on-screen talent at broadcast and so on, there's morality clauses where if you drag your employer, your network, your brand into disrepute from, degenerate behaviour or indeed criminal behaviour, you don't get your perks and benefits, your golden goodbyes, your pensions and so on. It goes without saying. But for some reason, Huw Edwards didn't have that in his contract at the BBC.
I mean, it's just completely unacceptable that in what is, as we've mentioned several times, essentially a tax, British people are having to pay for this big pension of a paedophile, a criminal. It is absolutely...
Just to mention that, I mean, of course...
It's deeply wrong. And this will... I mean, the BBC are in a difficult position because they can't go back and change the contract now. They may not want to pay out this big pension given all the controversy because they know it will cause a big storm in the media headlines. But it's their fault for not making sure that contract...
But there is a deeper point for the BBC and a number of news organisations that there's been too much of a you know, we value the talent almost at all costs. And, you know, we saw the Jimmy Savile scandal, we've seen Huw Edwards, and there needs to be some soul-searching at the BBC and other news organisations.
Just to reiterate, of course, what Gary Lineker shouldn't be mentioned in the same breath as Savile or Huw Edwards. I'm talking about the contract situation. I'm just saying I don't trust the BBC to have proper belt and braces contracts with the likes of Gary Lineker because they've been proven lacking on that.
And the big difference is the free market should be allowed to take care of it. If people want to watch someone or something being presented, well, if they're watching it, well, all well and wonderful. If they don't want to watch it, well, it shouldn't be made.
Do you like football, my man?
Yes, of course I do.
Did you, when you tuned in, I don't know if you ever watched Match of the Day, but when you tuned in, did you tune in for Gary Lineker and Alan Hansen and Alan Shearer, or did you tune in for the goals?
Mostly tuned out because you'll hear.
I totally disagree. I mean, look, you know, Gary Lineker, people like Alan Hansen, Alan Shearer, Ian Wright are damn good broadcasters.
So when you tune in, Bill, to Match, well, you used to tune in to Match of the Day. I mean, you may still now. I don't. You tuned in for Gary and to listen to the punditry?
No, I tune in for the Spurs game and don't watch the rest of it. But particularly on live broadcasts, I think they're really effective at what they do.
Yeah, no, I give you that point.
Well,
on big event coverage.
If it was up to me, I'd have all football commentary being broadcast by a test match special. But there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that Gary Lineker is an expert on football. I can't say I've ever watched it. I've never been into football. But what I hate is when people they're brilliant at one field, but they know nothing about politics. They still feel the need to broadcast to the world and lecture the world about who they should vote for. It's like, you know, Taylor Swift telling us all we need to vote for Joe Biden. She doesn't know anything about politics. She just stick to singing. Gary Lineker, stick to football.
And coming back to the issue of the Middle East, what really concerns me is people who go along with extreme anti-Semitics actually undermine the real and genuine concern. And I speak as a supporter of the State of Israel, but the real and genuine concern about what the Israeli government is doing in Gaza, which I think is increasingly indefensible.
Yeah, it puts people off, it dilutes the arguments.
Ultimately, it has got nothing to do with us here in Britain. We should not be seeing all this activism on our streets, on our broadcasters, on our TV channels. It's got nothing to do with us.
Well, the Palestine
we oversaw the creation of the State of Israel, so I think we've got a bit of historical responsibility there.
And also, it's been there for more than 75 years. It's time they got hold of their own affairs. We should let Israel do the right thing, finish off Hamas. It's got nothing to do with it.
OK, let's move on very quickly before we go to a break. If you've just tuned in to Ben Leo tonight on GB News, some breaking news from the past hour or so. Former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. That's according to a statement from his office tonight. He's 82 years old, of course. Tributes have been pouring in from across the political world, including from Meghan McCain, whose father was the late Republican Senator John McCain. He died of brain cancer. Meghan McCain has said tonight, "Cancer is the absolute worst. It is hell. It's incredibly difficult for any family anywhere that has to deal with it. I'm wishing nothing but healing, prayers, light and strength to President Biden and his family. I don't believe times like these are appropriate for politics." And interestingly, I mean, that point is kind of emphasised with a tribute from Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. You'll know her or remember her as the big MAGA supporter, a massive Trump loyalist. She said she was sorry to see this news. Cancer is truly awful. My dad passed away in 2021 with cancer. I'm praying for Joe Biden and his family. I've said mistakenly a couple of times tonight that Joe Biden lost the election to Donald Trump in 2024. Of course, it was Kamala Harris who took over because of Joe Biden's cognitive concerns. So I will say, you know, during that election run, from the likes of MSNBC, all the left-leaning liberal broadcasters who were making out that concerns and rhetoric about Joe Biden's health and cognitive abilities were some sort of wild internet conspiracy theory, they covered up the fact that he was in mental decline and in physical decline, which I think was an affront to democracy in America. Now, though, it's completely agreed that he wasn't quite right. Bill?
But Ben, I mean, and I think towards the end, there was a cover-up. But actually, the big expose is this new book by Jake Tapper from CNN, who's regarded as being very much on...
He was one of the worst.
Well, yeah, but he's the one who's done the serious research and given the detail on the degree to which the advisors and the family covered up the code.
But it's only
Sorry,
coming
man.
out. Yeah.
So I need to reply to this because it's egregious. Jake Tapper, it was one of the biggest proponents of calling right-wingers or anybody with a brain conspiracy theorists for saying there's something wrong with Joe Biden. There's clips of him online on CNN absolutely losing his... you know what, over suggestions Joe Biden wasn't right. And now he's got the gall to write a book talking about the cover-up. He was the main proponent of the cover-up. He's a clown, sorry.
Well, sorry, I mean, it is a stated fact that he's written a really well-researched book on the detail of the degree to which there was a cover-up. And I regret that because, you know, actually had Joe stood down sooner, we might have had a different outcome.
Well, it's like asking an arsonist to write you a book on how your house fire started. I mean, it's just insane. Well, sorry, man, I interrupted.
I mean, I was only going to say, I mean, why is it that we've seen this book come out after the election? Surely, you know, if you're such a great investigative journalist, you should have come out before the election of all these troubles.
Well, precisely my point. Precisely my point. It didn't come out before the election because he was the person instigating the cover-up. It's just, you know...
Same with Hillary Clinton. We all saw that video of Hillary Clinton being literally, you know, carried into that van. Was it 2 years before the last election campaign?
I mean, the bias in the mainstream media is clear as day, and they thought that they could fool us by, for example, you know, changing the camera angles at debates to make sure we don't see Joe Biden stumbling and whatnot. But the public, they're not fools, they've seen it, and that's why people are tuning out of the mainstream.
OK,
exactly.
We'll be back in just a tick. More front pages have just dropped. There's some other stories on there which we'll be getting stuck into in just a second. Ben Leo tonight, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I mean, the facts simply are, firstly, the role of the monarch above party politics and also a symbol of national unity. We saw it superbly this week. There always was going to be a change, I think, when Queen Elizabeth died. And, of course, you've had a change at a period of unbelievable voter volatility. We've seen that. But the facts are that any political party, a major political party, would give their eye teeth for the figures in the poll that the monarchy still has. And this is a period, I'd point out, where you've had an extraordinary use of soft power. I mean, the way Prime Minister Keir Starmer was showing the invitation from King Charles to Donald Trump, whatever one might think of him, it's not the point. The point is that the soft power element here is tremendous, and this builds on Queen Elizabeth's visit to Ireland in 2011 and then the President's visit here in 2014. Sinn Féin altered their stance. The monarchy has enormous relevance, and so far as putting on a pageant is concerned, no other country can match it regarding the coronation. 203 countries represented. So what you're seeing is something that's been going for Mark Cromwell for over 1,000 years. There's no doubt that it's part and parcel of the fabric of Britain. The monarchy will change just as views on it in different generations. For example, the problems with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, there's no doubt that that has affected younger voters. I think that's been clear for some time. But there's also no doubt that if you take charitable activities, the monarchy has an absolutely unique profile. We see this with William and the...
It makes no difference to charity at all.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight. More front pages have dropped. Let's look at the Daily Mail tomorrow. The headline reads, Starmer's surrender summit. Do you agree it's a surrender summit? The headline says, PM risks Brexit vote betrayal. Sir Keir warns not to bind us back into EU rules and the ECJ. The new youth mobility scheme will be return of free movement, allegedly. And Red Wall Labour rebels revolt as talks go down to the wire. And, of course, they're at the bottom the picture of former US President Joe Biden, who tonight, it's been revealed, has an aggressive form of prostate cancer. He is 82. The Times... EU's fishing demands pose late threat to the deal. So this is Sir Keir Starmer's reset with the European Union. Went down to the wire last night. Brussels was holding firm on its demand to tie a food export deal to long-term access to British fisheries. Is it yet another betrayal of our hard-working fishermen? The Guardian tomorrow. Same theme. Talks on reset of EU-UK relations to go down to the wire before the summit. And down the right-hand side, Israel starts new ground offensive in Gaza. I'm joined again by my panel, the founding chairman of the Global Britain Centre, Aman Bagal, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the former Labour Minister Bill Remmell, and indeed joined by Royal Scoop Getter, the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Charlotte, welcome along. Should we talk about Gary Lineker?
Yeah.
He is out on his backside earlier than planned. He was meant to be covering, of course, the World Cup next year in America, but after this massive anti-Semitism row, it seems either he's been pushed or he's agreed to go. What's your take on it?
If I had to guess, I'd say he's been pushed because he's had so many chances, hasn't he? And he's never gone before. And he carries on tweeting. And then this one, I just do not believe he did not realise that the rat was insulting. I just can't believe it. And he's the ultimate centrist dad, isn't he? He's the pinnacle of Islington.
Brew dog swigging.
Virtue signalling. Yeah. And his thing is he likes to make really complicated issues really simple and then go, listen, guys, it's simple. It's just good versus evil.
So last week he said, for example, trans women were the most persecuted, or trans people, rather, were the most persecuted group of people on earth.
Yeah. I mean,
he said men and women's sport isn't an issue.
Yeah, which is outrageous coming from a sportsman, because him particularly, he should know best that there's a deep physiological difference between men and women.
The thing that really annoyed me that he said last week was, if you are silent, you are complicit, which is such a complicated thing to say, because then you suddenly start checking yourself, thinking, oh, God, every time I've not said something, am I a terrible person?
What was he referring to, Gaza?
Yes, but on October the 7th, he tweeted about Spurs being top of the league. So, you know, I think that's silence. You know, he didn't say anything about that day.
Yeah.
So he's a very complicated man. I think he had to go.
It says here in The Sun tomorrow, he will announce he's leaving the BBC tomorrow, so Sunday, Monday rather, getting my days mixed up. He'll announce tomorrow he's leaving the BBC. He won't front next year's World Cup, and a source has told The Sun it's an extraordinary and heartbreaking end to a glittering broadcasting career. It comes, of course, 5 days after he apologised for that social media post. The source said Gary acknowledged his position at the BBC, anchoring the most prestigious tournament in the world football, next year's World Cup, was untenable, and he will not be hosting the event. He offered to step down at the end of the season and did not want the BBC, an organisation he still holds to the highest of esteem, dragged into any further controversy. So these source quotes, just explain, Charlotte, source quotes for people that don't know. You know, you work in the newspaper industry, you've got source quotes. These source quotes to me sound like it's from the BBC.
Yeah, and
a carefully curated PR exercise on how to announce that Gary's leaving.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it's very interesting that his ex-boss at the BBC did a big piece in the Times, I think it was today, actually, saying, I didn't think it would end like this. I mean, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I just have a feeling that they knew... Obviously, they knew this was coming, this announcement, and they were just leaking out stories all week with the knowledge that this was happening. Because I just thought, literally, a former boss saying, I didn't think it would end like this, in the morning of the Sunday Times, and then the afternoon, this coming out. But, yeah, often when it says sources close to, and it reads very formally like that, it basically is the BBC.
Yeah. Well, sources close to often also mean the person themselves who is speaking and doesn't wish to be quoted directly.
I thought maybe that was Gary's quotes, actually.
Yeah, no, I think they are. But look, I have got some respect for him, but you know, I've made clear I think it was one statement too far, and I think since this it's been unravelling, and it's been going on day by day. And probably my instinct is it was a mutual conclusion from Gary and the BBC that this can't go on, and they've therefore reached this agreement that he's going to go.
He's got this goal hanger podcast empire now, doesn't he?
It's quite successful.
So
hugely successful.
He doesn't really need the BBC paycheck anymore, even though he's incredibly well paid by the BBC. His other business is really successful. And that, of course, is all about being a centrist dad. You know, the rest of politics is kind of... They say it's kind of people from Islington agreeing with each other. And, yeah, so he can be himself there. You know, if he's going to be a sort of Twitter, tweet, you know, Instagram... You know,
well, that's exactly what as you said, a friend has said. Gary remains passionate about speaking out over perceived injustices in the world and will continue to call out things he believes to be wrong. He'll be able to speak without the shackles of the non-partisan BBC and has already had a lot of TV offers to mull over. And, of course, he'll be cheering on England like any fan this summer. I wonder what TV offers he's had.
I mean, it's a dangerous time to sign him up, actually. You know, ITV, for example, would be quite wary.
Is he out there, Gary? It's after my job. Right. Yeah, no, I wonder.
Having said that, I restate, he was a damn good broadcaster, and for people who are interested in football, he was a class act.
Yeah, but I think this was just the cherry on top of many tweets and outbursts. I mean, Charlotte, you rightly said he often sees things very much in black and white, and so will fire off these crazy tweets like saying that an immigration policy is something out of 1930s Germany, him saying we cannot be silent on Gaza because it is 100% black and white, just one side of the argument is right. He doesn't think the BBC needs to even show both sides because he thinks only one side is right. And then this was very much just a cherry on top. If it was just this one post, he might not be leaving now, but... There's been a lot of tension running for a long time.
It's been a long time that, you know, the running joke is that every single copy of The Guardian is exported to the BBC head office. But
well, no, it's true. There was a freedom of information request some years ago, Charlotte, you'll be familiar with this. Somebody FOI'd the BBC on which newspapers they buy the most, and The Guardian came out top. Yeah. And the likes of The Telegraph and The Mail came out least, so they spent the most money of licence fee cash on The Guardian.
The thing is, you know, in our free democracy, you know, we allow for such fringe elements to hold such fringe views and broadcast them whatever they wish, but it shouldn't be at the cost of people being forced to pay for listening to those fringe views. And that's my biggest point with this. It's time to defund the BBC. We shouldn't be made to pay at a cost of a criminal record to pay for people who are...
But, man, I will say, I don't know if you're a Tory still or what, but you were...
I'm a small C Conservative.
You're a Tory member still?
I'm a small C Conservative.
The Conservatives had the chance to defund the BBC.
Indeed,
and sort out Channel 4. Nadine Dorries banged on about it for months and months, maybe even years, and then bottled it.
Indeed. And
so who's going to defund the BBC?
Well, we're certainly not this lot. And as far as I understand, I think they are set in stone until for the next, 10 years, since the Conservative government extended their licence fee acceptance. But the problem is, if you go to any other big free democracy, show me one other free democracy where taxpayers are made to fund people talking about things that they mostly don't agree with. It's been anti-Brexit.
But we have a better state broadcaster than virtually anyone in the world.
We do not. We really do not.
Do you agree with that, Charlotte?
No, we really do not.
I do. In some ways,
What do you like about the BBC?
I just love I'm a small C Conservative, so I just love the tradition of having a really well-funded public broadcaster. And when you go over to America and you see PBS, you know, it's not a good quality broadcaster. And I have to say the BBC... I mean, it is incredibly biased and it's very frustrating, but some of the programmes and the output it puts out makes you proud to be British. You know, it's really good British comedy, British series.
It is part of our culture. It's something we've all grown up with, and most of us have all grown up watching Doctor Who, both me and my parents. And I think the problem
but even
now
Doctor Who, Chloe.
It's now become woke. It's now become woke. They were once a great broadcaster, and now they've become woke. Even the supposedly non-political shows like Doctor Who are going that way. And I think the problem with both Gary Lineker and the BBC in general is that they very much live in a bubble. So they might think, I'm putting out something that is unbiased, but their idea of the centre ground and unbiased is completely off whack with reality.
Centrist dads syndrome.
Exactly.
The problem.
It is. But, you know, I call it the Peppa Pig phenomena. I was on a train journey last year during the Indian general election in the very sticks of North India. And, you know, a couple with their young kids sitting next to me on the train, their kid was watching Peppa Pig in the very British English accent you could ever hear. And the kid was speaking in a very British accent. This is an Indian kid in the middle of nowhere. But the point is...
Yeah, but Peppa's not BBC.
Well, exactly. That's my point. Most of the BBC's output is not BBC produced. It's outsourced to private producers. So what's the point of the BBC being funded?
OK. All right, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. I will get to your comments. Lots on Gary Lineker. One of you said goodbye or good riddance to bad rubbish, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, say what you really think. Keep them coming in. Time's running out on your chance to win in our latest Great British giveaway. Your chance to win a 4-berth motorhome worth £67,000 and £5,000 in tax-free cash. Here's all the details you need to win.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, Joe Biden, of course, we've been talking about, has been diagnosed with a aggressive form of prostate cancer. Tributes pouring in from all over the political spectrum, both this side of the pond and indeed America. More on that in just a tick. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, looking further afield, there's plenty of sunny spells across Europe, but also some thunderstorms breaking out with an area of low pressure. So across parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands, dry, fine, sunny spells. But we do have this area of low pressure, and across parts of Spain, northern Portugal, there will be some heavy and intense downpours, similar across parts of northeastern Europe as well. And that theme continues with sunny spells, but some showers too that could be heavy.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, we'll see low cloud returning once again, but also some welcome showers mixed with sunny spells as we go through Monday. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we've still got this area of high pressure situated towards the north, driving north and then northeasterly and easterly winds as we go through Monday. But through the rest of this evening, once that land cools, we'll see the return of low cloud from the North Sea, thick enough at times for some light rain and drizzle. There'll be some showers across southern parts of Scotland that will sink southwards into parts of Wales. Otherwise, temperatures generally ranging from around 6 to 10 degrees. So a bit of a messy picture as we start Monday morning. There is going to be some low cloud around, just hugging coasts of northern parts of Scotland, eastern Scotland and into Orkney and Shetland. Out towards the west, plenty of sunshine to start Monday morning. Likewise for Northern Ireland, perhaps a little bit cloudier further towards the east. Then we have some showers just running down into parts of Wales. And for Devon and Cornwall, there may be some mist and fog patches that will gradually lift and break as we go through the morning. But otherwise, a bit of a messy picture out there, variable amounts of cloud and sunny spells. But into the afternoon, we will see some showers breaking out, especially across parts of Wales, northwest England, into southern parts of Scotland. They could be heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder. Best of the sunshine now across the far southeast, where it'll feel warm, highs of 22 degrees. Cooler now in the west, where we have a bit more in the way of cloud. Now, as we go through Tuesday, a similar start to the day. The low cloud will burn away. Plenty of sunshine initially, but once the sun gets going, we'll see showers bubbling up. Some of these could be heavy and perhaps thundery, and that sets the scene on Wednesday as well, especially towards the south. Drier on Thursday, but a drop in the temperatures. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Just a reminder of that breaking news. Former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. He and his family are reviewing treatment options. Let's get the latest now from the chairman of Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. He's live from Chicago, the Windy City. Greg, tell us, please, what's the latest? What do you know over there? And indeed, what's the mood and the atmosphere like stateside?
Yeah, look, the mood prior to today has been really optimistic. I mean, obviously the news in the last few weeks with President Trump, especially the trip to the Gulf, has been fantastic. So this is sad news today. There's no doubt about it. But what's circulating around social media, Ben, is, when did he know this, and when did the administration know it? It doesn't sound like stage 4 cancer can happen quickly, and I hate to be negative at a time like this. I do feel sorry for the president. But, this is, and you have to remember, Ben, this is in the context of perhaps the greatest cover-up in American history. Yeah. The 4-year cover-up of President Biden's cognitive challenges. So, there's not a lot of trust in legacy media right now in the U.S., and there's surely not a lot of trust in the former Biden administration and the people, the inner circle around him. So that's why there's a lot of questions circling right now.
I want to talk about that cover-up in just a second. Let me read you some tributes that are pouring in now for Joe Biden, not least from President Donald Trump, who has said on his Truth Social, Melania and I are saddened to hear about Joe Biden's recent medical diagnosis. We extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill, that's his wife, and the family, and we wish Joe a fast and successful recovery. And the former UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said, I'm so sorry to hear the news that President Biden has prostate cancer. Too many men are struck by this disease. We must continue to raise awareness of the danger it poses, wishing Joe all the best for his treatment. We've also had tonight, Greg, tributes from Meghan McCain and indeed even Marjorie Taylor Greene, which was interesting as a massive MAGA loyalist. Greg, talking about the cover-up of Joe Biden, one of my panellists tonight, former UK Armed Forces or Defence Armed Forces Minister Bill Remmel, and others, was talking about this new book from Jake Tapper from CNN, deep diving into the cover-up and, doing allegedly some investigative work into the cover-up of Joe Biden's health. I was making the point, Greg, that people like Jake Tapper were the prime instigators of that cover-up.
Yeah, it's really kind of funny coming from Jake Tapper. He, amongst basically the whole crew at CNN, were involved in the cover-up. They obviously knew. They all knew. And now that he's trying to sell books, he's willing to come out and admit it. But it's pretty shameless, if you ask me. And again, this is a sad day for the Biden family. I'm not trying to, look at it as anything but an unpleasant amount of unpleasant news. But
Yeah.
you know, I think again in the context of the cover-up and Jake Tapper running around trying to sell books, it's not a good look.
Yeah, and Greg, I don't think you're misspeaking at a time like this, because Joe Biden he could have been the next president. He was running until he was ousted.
Yeah.
He was downed in a coup from Kamala Harris and the DNC and Pelosi and co. But he could have been won a second term as US president. This guy, off the back of a cover-up, an institutional political cover-up, where Americans, hundreds of millions of Americans, were deceived by politicians, by the media. This guy could have been leading the free world.
Yeah. No, it's outrageous, Ben. And look, the cover-up has been going on for 4 years, even during the first campaign in 2020. But also, you know, if you think about it, you know, this would have been diagnosed by his physical that he made quite a splash about. He had a physical back in very early 2024. He refused to take a cognitive test for obvious reasons, but you'd think either the doctors would have picked this up. So either they covered it up or the doctors were asleep at the wheel. I don't know how, you know, I don't imagine you could miss what's now stage 4 prostate cancer. So look, I think there's a lot of questions here, and I think we're right to be skeptical about part 2 of the cover-up.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring my panel in a second, Greg, just to have a chat with you. But in February last year, you just mentioned there, it's a surprise that nothing was picked up before. In February last year, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who was Joe Biden's doctor, said there were no new concerns with the president's health. He said at the time, and I quote, "The president feels well, and this year's physical identified no new concerns. He continues to be fit for duty and fully executes all of his responsibilities without any exemptions or accommodations." That's what Dr. O'Connor said at the time. Bill Ramel, you had a question for Greg Swenson, or something to say at least.
Yeah, so what I've heard Greg just say is that Joe Biden and the people around him have hidden stage 4 cancer from the public. Joe Biden stood down almost a year ago. Is it really credible that you would keep stage 4 cancer private for that period of time? You know, I think this is probably genuinely something that has come on, and, you know, we should treat it at face value.
Did you hear that, Greg?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, it's a little noisy here, but I think I got the basics. But look, unless these people are under oath, they always lie. You know, the cover-up has started again back in
Trump
early
lies
21.
every day of the week.
Well, that's got nothing to do with Joe Biden.
Well, no, but Greg's speaking on behalf of President Trump, and
no, he's not.
Donald Trump is an absolute liar who has told stacks and stacks
Greg
of
hasn't
lies.
mentioned Trump once in this conversation.
He speaks to Republicans abroad who are the major advocates for Donald Trump.
But he's not talking about Trump. He's talking about Joe Biden and the...
No, but he was accusing Biden and the people around him of lying.
He said
and copper and kettle black are the words that come to mind.
You've literally had Secret Service agents literally walk beside Biden in his last days, making sure that if he falls, they can catch him. That's how bad the cover-up has been.
They had plans to put him in a wheelchair in his second term if it had gone ahead. That was revealed recently.
And it's a real indictment of where the US is. I mean, let's not forget, Joe Biden started in 1972 as a senator in Delaware, and one of his first campaigns was about government accountability. And look at where it ended up.
Yeah, he's a career politician. Greg, last word to you before I let you go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just your final thoughts. Where do we go from here? What does the future look like for the Bidens?
I mean, it's breaking news, so it's difficult to digest a lot of the noise that's circulating. But I do think, again, you have to look at this in the context of the greatest cover-up of all time. That's not my opinion. That's Jake Tapper's opinion. It's a lot of other Democrats that are finally coming clean with this.
Yeah, Jake Tapper doing basically covering up the cover-up. You couldn't make it up.
Yeah.
Greg Swenson, thank you for your company in Chicago. Have a good rest of your day. Let's look at some more front pages that have just come in. The Daily Express, if I can find it. Thank you, Charlotte. Always helpful to have an organised panellist. The Daily Express, the Prime Minister is hell-bent on selling out our Brexit freedoms. Sir Keir Starmer is ready to surrender control of the UK and accept EU food rules, according to Brexiteers. And the Daily Telegraph, again, going with this summit tomorrow. Labour revolt over Brexit betrayal. MPs warn the worst of both worlds deal will drive voters into the arms of Reform UK. And a very interesting one on the right-hand side, very quickly. The Princess of Wales has inspired one of Britain's leading businesses to give new fathers 6 months of fully paid paternity leave. Good idea, bad idea? Let us know. gbnews.com/your say. I think the standard, I got 2 weeks and it was unpaid as well. Right, coming up, we'll bring you the update on the Gary Lineker story. He's quit the BBC early. He was meant to be covering the World Cup next year. He's going next week. Are you happy? And Joe Biden, of course, we get the latest on his cancer diagnosis. Back in just a tick.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
This is the King's son using the King's court to sue the King's minister. Yes. Constitutionally, this is pretty rum, isn't it? Can you think of a previous historic example?
It's unprecedented. That word's often used with regards to Harry, but I do think he's shone his light into a bunch of nettles that we never go to. Why don't we even know how much royal security costs us? And by the way, if you put in a freedom of information, you won't get a result from it because they say that would be to imperil the people they're protecting. But the truth is, let's be honest, the Duke of Gloucester on a Sunday afternoon opening, I don't know, a leisure pool in Grimsby, or even, dare I say it, the Duchess of Edinburgh rocking up to the National Memorial Arboretum and doing a very good job. I refuse to believe that they are more in need of security than Prince Harry is.
They don't get it.
But they do. I'm sorry, they do get. Royals, when they're working, do get security.
If they're doing specific events,
yes,
there are security around the events. But you can see the Duke of Kent walking up St James's Street by himself.
Yes.
There isn't this...
And when they're working is the critical word there, because Harry has stepped back from all of his frontline royal duties.
But once a prince, always a prince. You can't actually
He's a prince emeritus.
Well, but both of you presumably believe in hereditary monarchy. And if you believe in hereditary monarchy, you've got to bear the cost.
Comes with the duty of service, which he set aside. It's not the job of the armed police to provide emotional support bodies to somebody who has abdicated their responsibilities as a member of the royal family and then is actually, instead of going into... He could have picked... There are all kinds of relatively anonymous lives that Harry could have chosen, right? He could have gone anywhere in the world. Yes. Instead, he has moved to California, where he and his wife continually try, with increasing lack of success, to cash in.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Just another quick reminder of the breaking news from the past hour. Former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, which has spread to the bone. That's according to a statement from his office tonight. He and his family, including his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, are reviewing treatment options. We've heard tributes from the likes of President Donald Trump this evening. He's saying that he and his wife, Melania, wish Joe Biden the best. And, of course, Rishi Sunak as well, who said that there needs to be more emphasis and research on dealing with prostate cancer and some cures and treatments as well. Also, the other big story tonight, Gary Lineker, St Gary, is set to quit the BBC and not front the 2026 World Cup next year following the anti-Semitism row. Lineker will be presenting his final programme for the BBC next week. I want to show you this quick clip. Journalist Nicole Lampert, well, that's one clip. Nicole Lampert made this interesting comment on Gary Lineker's agreement here, his contract to do with morality clauses and behaviour at the BBC. Take a quick look at this and we'll discuss it.
That would be in his contract, because it's in everyone's contract. Everybody that signs a contract who works for any company is about bringing the company into disrepute. And that is something that Gary has done. He's brought it into disrepute with his racist tweets. Now, in terms of the BBC in general, already it was in trouble, and it was in trouble in two ways. One, there was a cultural review after the Huw Edwards and all of that, which showed that they should never have one person having all the power, and that people who complain about things should be listened to. And that's not what happened with Huw Edwards and various others. And this obviously goes back to Jimmy Savile, all these stories that people knew about, but because they were talent, they were allowed to get away with it. And Gary Lineker is very much part of that.
OK, panel, let's start with you, Aman. Should Gary Lineker be getting, for example, his pension, or has he brought the BBC into disrepute?
On the contrary, I think, look, this is the final million pound straw that should break the BBC's back. It's time to defund the BBC.
Should he get his pension, yes or no?
No.
Chloe?
No, he shouldn't. If there is a morality clause there, he's definitely brought the BBC into disrepute.
Has he broken his contract, Charlotte?
Definitely, and he's been warned many, many times before. He's very provocative and deliberate when he does these
Bill,
tweets.
What's your take?
No, he shouldn't. You know, I think he's made misjudgments. He's gone too far, but I don't think he's brought the BBC into disrepute.
So you think he should get his pension?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, OK. Yeah, just as a reminder, Huw Edwards, of course, does get his 400k a year pension because there was no morality clause in his contract. I don't know what Gary Lineker's contract looks like, but interesting food for thought nonetheless. Thank you to my panel tonight, Aman, Chloe, Charlotte and Bill. Leo Kearse is on standby for what I'm sure is going to be an absolutely epic episode of Headliners. Leo, what's up?
Yeah, we've got Simon Evans and Cressida Wetton on the show tonight, so it should be fun. Maybe even as eventful as last night. And we're going to be talking about Lineker leaving the BBC under the anti-Semitism row. Apparently, he just wasn't anti-Semitic enough for them. And Huw Edwards, apparently the BBC knew about Huw Edwards 10 years before he was actually nobbled. I mean, after 10 years, some of his victims would be legal. And Angela Rayner is bringing through plans to protect right-wing staff at work. Is that for Keir Starmer?
Great stuff, Leo. Thanks a lot. I think that was a joke in there. Thank you very much to my panel and you, the viewers, tonight. I'm back tomorrow covering Patrick from 9 p.m, so I'll see you there. In the meantime, have a good Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, we'll see low cloud returning once again, but also some welcome showers mixed with sunny spells as we go through Monday. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we've still got this area of high pressure situated towards the north, driving north and then northeasterly and easterly winds as we go through Monday. But through the rest of this evening, once that land cools, we'll see the return of low cloud from the North Sea, thick enough at times for some light rain and drizzle. There'll be some showers across southern parts of Scotland that will sink southwards into parts of Wales. Otherwise, temperatures generally ranging from around 6 to 10 degrees. So a bit of a messy picture as we start Monday morning. There is going to be some low cloud around, just hugging coasts of northern parts of Scotland, eastern Scotland and into Orkney and Shetland. Out towards the west, plenty of sunshine to start Monday morning. Likewise for Northern Ireland, perhaps a little bit cloudier further towards the east. Then we have some showers just running down into parts of Wales. And for Devon and Cornwall, there may be some mist and fog patches that will gradually lift and break as we go through the morning. But otherwise, a bit of a messy picture out there, variable amounts of cloud and sunny spells, but into the afternoon we will see some showers breaking out, especially across parts of Wales, northwest England, into southern parts of Scotland. They could be heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder. Best of the sunshine now across the far southeast, where it'll feel warm, highs of 22 degrees, cooler now in the west, where we have a bit more in the way of cloud. Now, as we go through Tuesday, a similar start to the day. The low cloud will burn away. Plenty of sunshine initially, but once the sun gets going, we'll see showers bubbling up. Some of these could be heavy and perhaps thundery, and that sets the scene on Wednesday as well, especially towards the south. Drier on Thursday, but a drop in the temperatures. Bye-bye.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you. Driving away in this El Nagbaran 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of 4. Comes complete with kitchen, bathroom, and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News.